Thank you. Oh, there we are. There we are. So the readings today, in all my years of being a Presbyterian preacher preaching week after week, I avoided the text that I chose for this morning for Jubilee when I could have chosen anything in the world because y'all don't care. But it felt appropriate today, and I may challenge a little bit what Michael said at the beginning about this being a place of non-judgment. Because in Luke 12, Jesus says, I have come to cast fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already ablaze. I have a baptism with which to be baptized, and what constraint I am under until it is completed. Do you think that I have come to bring peace on the earth? No. I tell you, rather division. From now on, 5 in one household will be divided, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son and son against father, mother against daughter and daughter against mother, mother-in-law against daughter-in-law and daughter-in-law against mother-in-law. Jesus also said to the crowds, when you see a cloud rising in the west, you immediately say, oh, it's going to rain, and it does. And when you see the south wind blowing, you say, there will be scorching heat, and it happens. You hypocrites, you know how to interpret the appearance of the earth and sky, but you do not know how to interpret the present time? And from the Sufi poet Rumi, gamble everything for love, if you are a true human being. If not, leave this gathering. Half-heartedness does not reach for majesty. You set out to find God, but then you keep stopping for long periods at mean-spirited roadhouses. This is ancient wisdom and holy word.
Thanks be to all that is wise and holy.
All creation is wisdom and holy word.
All creation sings of wisdom and God. Hallelujah.
So how was your Valentine's Day? Anybody you know get beheaded? No, because that's what happened to St. Valentine's on February 14th. How we managed to turn that into a day of chocolate and roses, I'm not sure. Maybe it's a little bit like how Americans like to remember our history. Well, there were no martyrdoms on my Valentine's Day either, but I was glad to see those who gathered at the state capitol. I know Carol was there. I don't know if anyone else from this crowd was there yesterday to highlight our state's gerrymandering and call for public policy based in moral values of love, inclusion, and justice. The previous Saturday, I joined with about 150 folks at our local Target for a sing-in, asking that corporation based in Minnesota to stop complying with ICE. And the week before that, I, like a whole bunch of you I know, joined community members to find the monks wherever they were in North Carolina on their walk for peace. And what a joy to see them arrive in DC this week to tens of thousands. These 3 events had several things in common. All were based in values of peace and compassion, and the energy of these gatherings was peace and compassion. All brought together a diverse community of strangers gathered around a common goal, lifting each other up through silence and prayer and song. And all 3 left me feeling joyful. And feeling joyful these days is no small thing. Breathe. While we might not have experienced martyrdom on this Valentine's Day, most of us are aware that at least 8 people have died at the hands of ICE in just January of this year. I'm going to name them now, and along with their ages, and I invite you, after I say the names and ages, to say together, presente, after each. Presente. Yeah, there we go. Geraldo Linas Campos, aged 55. Presente. Luis Gustavo Nunez Caceres, 42. Presente. Luis Beltran Yanez Cruz, 68. Presente. Renee Nicole Good, Presente. 37. Paradis La, 46. Presente. Victor Manuel Diaz, 36. Eber Sanchez Dominguez, age 34. Presente. Alex Preti, age 37. Presente. These people were killed with our tax dollars. Saying presente after their names is a practice from Central and South America to remember and honor the individuals kidnapped, tortured, murdered, or disappeared by military dictatorships. In our own country, in this past year, at least 1,200 people who were detained at Alligator Alcatraz have disappeared. Their names have been wiped from the DHS website, and neither their families nor their lawyers have any information on where they are or whether they are alive. For these 1,200, we say, presente. So yeah, in this moment of history, finding joy, gathering community, uplifting compassion, these are no small things. When I chose this week to speak with the theme, Feeding Our Inner Fire, I imagined that I might be drawing on my Quaker background with the emphasis on the inner light that each of us carries. But as the day got closer, a different image of fire emerged. Blazing fire, fire that burns. Sometimes fire burns to warm our homes, and we've all appreciated that these past few weeks. Sometimes fire burns things to the ground. And I don't know about you, but after reading more of the Epstein files, I was pretty much ready to burn it all down. The depth of depravity and the breadth of complicity is staggering. Burn the whole effing thing down is pretty much how I've been feeling this week. And listen, I'm not naive. One of my first jobs out of college when I was in my early 20s was working with women in prostitution on the streets of Chicago. I rarely met a woman working on the streets who hadn't been sexually abused long before she started getting paid for it. I know that's not true of all sex workers, but when you're working for a pimp on the back streets, good chances are you didn't go there because you were safe and sound at home. I've been painfully aware of the widespread abuse of women and girls my entire adult life, and still, even I could not imagine this level of horror. So, as I began thinking about feeding our inner fires, this passage from Luke came to me. When Jesus says, I have come to cast fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already ablaze. Turns out, Jesus also had some burn it all down days. Personally, I find that comforting. He ends this particular rant by berating people for knowing how to interpret the weather, but not the climate of this moment of history. Reading the times we live in, even when it is as uncomfortable as hell, is our spiritual responsibility. And speaking of hell, that brings us back to fire. So in the morning when I do my own meditation with the directions and the ancestors and the elements, I generally do a fire in the south. David and I talked about that ahead of time, that the Cherokee way is doing it in the east, but wherever, fire comes up somewhere. And I turn to the south and welcome the element of fire. I offer thanksgiving for all that it provides for us, the warmth of the sun that allows life on this planet, the fire in my furnace that eats my home, the fire of electricity that allows me to have my computer, and we have our sound system. Lost my place. Shouldn't pick up the thing mid-speaking. The fire that cooks my food, and the fire of my own heartbeat that keeps me alive. And I always pause to remember that fire also purifies. Fire purifies metals by using intense heat to melt, oxidize, and remove impurities, allowing the separation of the pure metal from the contaminants. In a blacksmithing forge, heat cleans the metals by forcing the impurities or clinkers to be removed. Kilns take fragile clay and turn that into stone-hard pieces to make a finished product that's durable and usable and beautiful. So we all enjoy the results of these fires. The pure sparkle of gold, the strength of iron, the sturdy beauty of pottery. And none of us would want to be in the fire with those elements while the transformation was happening. And yet, my friends, I would suggest that is exactly where we are called to be right now. We can choose to stand outside the kiln of these times. But guess what? You won't get transformed there. We will remain like unfired clay, fragile and kind of useless. Even forest fires, as they blaze through old growth, make room for new growth. The ecology of fresh starts isn't pretty. Today is the beginning of the celebrations for the Lunar New Year, which arrives on Tuesday, which also happens to be Mardi Gras. And it may not surprise you to realize that we're coming into the year of the fire horse. I know next to nothing about Chinese astrology, let me just say, but here's what I read this week. First, you probably know, if you've ever been to a Chinese restaurant and had a little paper placemat, that every year is associated with one of 12 animals. Additionally, each year is associated with one of the 5 elements of Chinese medicine: wood, water, metal, earth, or fire. So you may be a water rabbit or an earth rabbit, depending on what year you were born. A water rabbit has some similarities and some differences from an earth rabbit. So a fire horse year has the characteristics of both the horse and the fire. The horse is both independent and highly social, both free-spirited and hardworking, intuitive and impulsive. The horse, even when it's not a fire year, is passionate. Now add the element of fire, which intensifies all these traits. The last year with the fire horse was 1966. The Black Panthers and the National Organization of Women formed that year, even as the Vietnam War escalated and the Cultural Revolution began in China. The USSR and the USA had their first soft landings on the moon. 1966 was a transformational year in music, some of you all might know, considered by some a year that changed music forever. So events that we consider both positive and negative erupted. It was without a doubt a year of disruption. So buckle up. Fire burns with passion. Passion can be gorgeous. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. And passion can be dangerous. But without passion, without fire, we miss the transformation. Change requires us to walk into the fire, not knowing whether we're going to come out pure gold or melt away like dross. I don't know about any of you. I don't know how any of you felt about Bad Bunny's performance.
Loved it.
On Sunday. And I'm also going to share my opinion, which is obviously just that, my opinion, take it or leave it, which is actually true of everything I say up here. So. I believe that Bad Bunny is a prophet who was called to this time. He stepped onto one of the biggest arenas on earth, and he sang about passion and love and community. He didn't shy away from controversy, but it all came in a package of celebration and collaboration and joy. He danced into the fire, and he invited us to dance with him. Still giving me chills. Jesus said he did not come to bring peace, but division, 2 against 3. Now think about what happened when Bad Bunny, simply by his presence, he became a dividing line. More like 14 against 1 than 2 against 3, but who's counting? So here we are in these turbulent, divided times. Not for the first time, not for the last time, but this is our time. And it is a fiery time. We get to choose. Do we walk into the fire or do we try to keep ourselves safe? And if we choose to walk in, how do we walk into the fire? Do we dance in with a message of love and community like Bad Bunny? Do we walk in with a message of peace and compassion like the monks? Do we sing in with a message of hope and possibility like so many thousands in Minnesota and elsewhere? Do we gallop in with the passion of the fire horse? Do we ride a humble donkey into the militarized zone as Jesus did? Do we blaze in with the violence of a forest fire or the intensity of the kiln? Perhaps we need each of those kinds of fire this year. So the question becomes for each of us and for you as a community, what kind of fire will you feed in yourself? Probably all of us know the story of the native chief talking to his grandson about the 2 wolves that live inside of us, internally battling it out. One wolf represents greed and fear, the other wolf, peace and love. And the grandson asked, "Grandfather, which wolf will win?" And the grandfather responds, "Whichever wolf you feed." What fire will you feed? The fire doesn't need to be gentle, but it also doesn't need to be mean. Rumi said, "Gamble everything for love, if you're a human being, true human being. If not, leave this gathering." Half-heartedness does not reach into majesty. You set out to find God, but then you keep stopping for long periods at mean-spirited roadhouses. Half-heartedness, or as Jesus put it, lukewarmedness, does not reach into majesty. A half-hearted fire will not purify metal. A half-hearted fire won't cook your food. A half-hearted fire will not create a love that sustains you. You set out to find God, Remy says, but then you keep stopping for long periods at mean-spirited roadhouses. Anybody stop at a mean-spirited roadhouse this week? Maybe on social media or somewhere like that? Fire is wild and blazing and unpredictable and absolutely necessary to life. But it doesn't have to be mean. I saw a poster this week that read, "May I love in ways that devastatingly disrupt state violence." Isn't that a good one? I like that one. So even if Jesus and I do want to burn it all down from time to time, how do we feed the flames of love that only burn away the dross? How do we feed the flames of compassion that strengthen the material we're made of and turn us into something sturdy and reliable? How do we feed the flames of community that allow a healthy ecosystem to regenerate? We're going to be riding a wild horse this year. Our faith, our hope, our love, and our compassion will all be tested. You can count on it. And perhaps we will come out shinier, stronger, and more beautiful than ever before. But only if we ourselves are willing to be purified. Let's make sure we're all well fed for the journey ahead.